You're Secretary of State, and then 9/11 happens. When did you realize that you would have to be involved and the government had to be involved in some kind of military confrontation?
Well, you can't let something like that go by without doing something about it. And my job was to not immediately get involved in military matters, but to pull the international community together. And it was a very rewarding experience. And for the first time in NATO's history, they invoked what is called Article 5, which said if any member of the alliance is attacked, we are all attacked. So they were all on our side.
Subsequently, we turned our attention to Iraq, and President Bush decided that we would do an invasion of Iraq to go after Saddam Hussein.
What I said to the president before that was, Mr. President, you need to understand that if you take out this government, you become responsible as the new government. You become responsible for 27 million Iraqis who will be standing there looking at us. You take on great responsibility, and you understand that and you want to do it. And we were private when we were having this conversation, and he said, well, what's the alternative? I said, the alternative is to have the UN be in the first position. They're the ones who have violated, the resolutions have been violated. So let's have a diplomatic approach.
President Bush said, I agree with your idea of going to the UN and convincing them.
He did. Before taking military action, he wanted to present our case to the United Nations publicly. And so on a Thursday afternoon, I was in with him. He said, would you take the case next Tuesday?
To the UN?
Yeah.
You made the case that Saddam did have, or we thought he had, weapons of mass destruction. When it turned out he didn't,
right.
Do you think you were embarrassed by that? Or do you think that the U.S. was embarrassed? Or do you think, had we known he didn't have weapons of mass destruction, President Bush would have gone ahead anyway?
No, he would not have gone ahead. And I asked him that specific question when we were going through this. I said, Mr. President, if Saddam Hussein can prove that he has no weapons of mass destruction, then you do not have a basis for war. Are you prepared to accept that, even if it means Saddam Hussein will stay in place? Hesitantly, he said, yes, I will accept that. So that's why I went forward. So I went out and spent 3 days at the CIA with the intelligence communities and prepared the document that I would present. And every word in there was approved by the CIA, was written by the CIA. And so we went, I gave the presentation. It seemed to go well. I was confident that it went well. But then within a few days or a couple of weeks, it started to fall apart. So yes, I was more than embarrassed. I was mortified, because even though the president had used the same information, Congress had used the same information, Secretary Rumsfeld, Condoleezza Rice, all of us were using the same information, but I'm the one who made the biggest presentation of it. So it all sort of fell on me. That's show business, huh?
But today, in hindsight, would you say the invasion was a mistake?
I'd say the execution of the invasion was not done properly. We abandoned the Army without any discussion back in Washington, and then we abandoned something worse, the Ba'ath Party, and said that anybody who worked for the Ba'ath Party could not work in the new government. Those were two monstrously bad strategic decisions, and we did not have enough force in there to do what we wanted the Iraq Army to do, and the place fell apart. Now, right now, Iraq has a democracy. It's tricky, but it's a democracy. They have elections, and they are trying to restore order in their country. If they do all of that, I think it's bad that we went about it in such a terrible way, in my humble judgment, others will not agree with me, that if they come out through this difficult process they're in now as a democracy, no weapons of mass destruction, no Saddam Hussein, then I think you'd have to judge this differently than what's being judged now.